Welcome to Data Masterclass Podcast, where data leaders share their unique stories. In this episode, we talked with Amy Raygada, who is Principal Data Management Lead at ThoughtWorks, on what it takes to make the role of Data Product Manager as the success, how this aligns with AI product direction, and what are those simple and often underrated techniques that deliver proven outcomes in data product management. Let's welcome our new host, 𝗟𝗏𝗄𝗏.
Hello, data people. We have today a very interesting guest in our podcast from a Data Masterclass. And before I introduce Amy properly, my name is Alexis. I'm working with Alex in the Data Masterclass. And today I have this phenomenal privilege to have Amy with us. And Amy is one of our Data Masterclass coaches in data management and data governance. But I will leave to Amy to talk more about where she's coming from.
Thank you, Alexis. I'm really happy to be here today to be able to share some of my knowledge with everyone here. So basically, well, my name is Amy, originally from Costa Rica, living in cloudy Germany. I've been working in IT for the last 18 years. The first half of my career, maybe less, was in software engineering. And I moved to data basically in 2013. When there was basically a database administrator and not such a thing like a data engineer. And I've been moving through different kind of positions, data product management, data quality engineer, data governance, and data strategist. So right now I'm working at ThoughtWorks as a principal data and AI strategist. And I help basically clients to be able to implement their AI and data governance roadmaps, as well as a strategy for teams that are basically starting to become more, let's say, data-driven.
Okay. So it's a very hot job right now. Yeah. So with all these AI initiatives, and I think every second company is thinking about the data and AI strategy, maybe AI strategy. So I think you're kind of very well demanded on this. Before we go deeper, I'm still curious, like what took you to data? Yeah. So you said you started as a software engineer. This is very, nice job, well paid, always demanded. So what took you to the data?
Actually, I started to work at some point. One of my first jobs was in Intel, and I was a developer there in mainframe, to create all the microchips and all this kind of stuff for the engineers that were in the field, basically creating all the hardware. And we were working there with mainframe. And at some point, I moved with Accenture to Citibank at some point, long time ago. And I was the only one able to create test data for all the software engineering that we were doing, because I already learned how to use, mainframe and so on. So it was quite, easy for me. And then I started to get more into the data world, with working more with databases. And I'm like, I really enjoy SQL. Like, this is really cool. This is something I like. And it's not only the select stuff, but there is more complexity around that. And I had the opportunity when I was working for a US bank to move to be able to bring one team where they have a data warehouse in Oracle. So imagine, right? Mainframe, Oracle, very old stuff. And I was doing data quality and there for them. And I was basically like, okay, this sounds interesting. It has a lot of databases. I think I can learn something new. Why not try? And I moved there and I actually implemented a data catalog in Excel in 2013. So
that's a long time back. I don't think many people would ever heard about the data catalog or even the concept of the data catalog, 12 years ago.
Yeah. Of course, it was not named data catalog, but the business wanted to know what field this field means, when it's updated, and all this kind of information. So we were basically mapping all the stuff. It was basically what we know now, a data catalog. When I look back in time, I laugh a lot, right? Because why I didn't have one of these ideas to create one of those softwares that are nowadays here. Maybe I will be a millionaire by now.
What it confirms me as well is that many great data initiatives starts with Excel.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do with this, Excel, maybe it was built as a tool for a business, but I think it's actually the tool for many data professionals to kick off their ideas. All right. Okay, good. So let's move on. So data management kind of appeared for you as a topic, and you is our data management coach. And I don't think that data management is, appearing as a discipline for many. And I've been on multiple industry events when we're talking about data management, data governance, and it's always a bit of this type of niche thing. It's good for data professionals. As soon as you go out of that and try to explain it even to your stakeholders, there's like, okay, I get like a data quality, maybe, but that whole notion of like, the governance versus management. So how do you navigate it usually with your stakeholders, especially as you, from the ThoughtWorks, you're probably working with many clients. So how do you navigate that, that not even confusion, but setting that basic clarity, in a very simple words, like, what is the data management? What is the relation to the governance? What is what we're actually going to do with data?
Yeah, I think everything has started back to that data catalog in 2013, because I found the disconnection between the data team and the business. Usually they cannot talk, right? So at the end, this role is basically being a translator that sometimes they don't really care what we are doing and why, they don't understand why even do this, but it's necessary. So both sides understand the needs of each other, right? And one of the ways that I use to explain my clients when we talk about data strategy, and then maybe need on top some data governance, either if it's computational governance, right? Or just, if you don't want to call it like that, then just go to more simple data management, data governance, right? In how you maintain, for example, a library, right? You have the books, you have to have a number for each book, you need to know in which shelf it is. And then if you take it, for example, you borrow it to someone, you need to understand who owns that, which shelf belongs to, right? And who took it and why he took it, right? And this is some kind of okay, it kind of makes sense. And I know it sounds super cliche, but a lot of people actually is like, really, it makes sense, But of course, I explain it in another context when I need to speak to C-level, because they don't care about a library or anything else. They care about ROI. They care about value. They care about how much they can save. So I go with them directly, having a workshop, understanding what they're having, what problems they are having, what are the pain points, and immediately have a vision. At this point, it comes very easily for me. But I'm like, okay, maybe they can save, for example, in cloud consumption, because they don't even know the organization of their projects, of their folders, what is going on there. Is it duplicated, for example, I don't know, dashboards, right? That you have sometimes the same dashboard several times that maybe just was open once or twice. So I try to see where we can produce some value out of it and talk to them. Okay, look, if we do this, if we implement this kind of governance, maybe we can save in this and this and this area. Of course, I have to do an assessment, right, to understand where I can touch the points. But something that I learned a long time ago is that your best friend is the CFO and the COO. Because if you're able to improve efficiency for the COO, and I will tell you a story that actually when I was working in one company not long ago, we were able to, they used to have a working student. And this working student was basically transferring data from one system to an Excel sheet about, the metrics of retention, how many people apply, how many positions are open, all these HR hiring information. And this poor girl was basically, transferring everything. And at some point, the CEO wanted a report out of it, but this report didn't match actually the numbers. So we were very proactive and we were like, hey, we are the data platform team and we can help you to automate this. So yeah, no, why are you going to touch our data? We can do it. That's why the working student is there. Well, no, but it's going to be automatic because you need this every month. So she doesn't need to do that. You can use her for something else, right? And then we can show me the numbers automatically. So they agree after some talks that we could do a POC on that. And then they saw the first metrics. It was actually, we were using Excel because they didn't allow us to be able to connect to the API, right? So the background, the data was basically some Excel from the working student, but they were, this looks nice, it's presentable. We can go actually to the board, we can go to the C-level and present this, and it will look like nice and professional and more storytelling, right, than where we are presenting now. So once they had that, they were, okay, let's try it. We're not very sure, but we're going to give you access to this information. And then basically we did that, and they were saving basically the poor working student person plus some other people that needed to verify this once or twice to make sure that the numbers were correct. And anyway, they were not correct. And that's how we got into the HR with the COO. And they were asking, what other processes we can do more efficient by working with your team? And with the CFO, we have kind of the same situation, because by scanning projects with data governance and all that, computational governance that we started to implement in our GCP, we were able to save 200,000 Swiss francs in 1 year. And for him was like, bling, bling, sure, here is my financial information. Do whatever you need to.
Yeah. Now that's a very lovely story. And I always felt the same with this functional, role, which I just super care about the efficiency or about the money. They data-driven, they are very key-driven. That's why we match with them very well from, funding from the data side. One thing I wanted to ask you in what you've just described, you started to say, hey, we just talk to CFO or CEO, and we create this workshop and so on. When I reflect on many teams when we're working today from a data masterclass perspective, it's often a big challenge for them to actually initiate this conversation and kind of initiate that move even. Like, how do you even get to that opportunity and visibility to organize, a meeting with C-level to talk about the data and, what opportunity the data brings? And even if they somehow navigate that path, then the second things come immediately as a kind of strike is like, okay, but how do I shape that conversation? Because this conversation should be super relevant for the C-level, yet it also should be somewhat, explanatory with the data, and not on that kind of library level, but exactly on connection to all the initiatives which the data team is responsible in a company, or to certain initiatives like, analytics or whatever. So what are your, maybe few very concrete, very specific tips, like how do you overcome this barrier? How do you get initiation and finally that, the first great conversation, not just a conversation, but a great conversation over the C-level?
That could be difficult depending on the setup, right? The bigger the company, the harder it is to reach out these levels. But you might have maybe a regional manager that can kind of support. So try to, if you are in a big company, try to find someone to vouch for you. And how? Offer them fix for a problem that they are having. Always find a problem to that person is facing. And from there on, this person will be, okay, you can ask this person, hey, can you do me a favor? We would like to reach out because maybe we have problems with the HR system, with this, with that, and we can fix it. Do you think it's possible? And usually this person is going to be happy already because we solved one of his problems or her problems. And then it's going to help you to open that door. In a smaller startups, it's easier, right? Because you can bring already, hey, look, we found that there is problem here and there. We have a draft solution, and we understand that we can save money or efficiency or increase the leads or so on, right? That you can offer valuable in return. And this is something really quick, right? You cannot really go around and start talking technical, because these people is going to be like, no, you really need to go straight to the point. This is a problem you have. This is quickly like what we saved and then how you solve it. Because once you say, okay, problem, solution, and what we did, it will cut your attention. So it's more like an elevator pitch, or depending now with the AI hype, you can knock that door and bring some AI initiatives, and they're going to be like, oh yes, I want AI, I need it in my life. And you can have workshops with them. I have many workshops with a lot of C-level about AI initiatives. They really enjoy it because, of course, they feel part of the hype. And then you get the support from their side, like even showing them gather internally. For example, if you have for example, in one company that I worked, I was gathering all the people were using AI maybe a couple of years ago, and even marketing, they were using AI, but they will not contact the data team for that. And we have 4 or 5 data teams. They will do it like contracting a vendor or something because there was no communication. So I gather all of this and I asked them to provide a demo and how that improved their processes. And we took this demo, let's say a hands-on experience demo, to the C-level. And they were happy to see that and invest more in AI governance, in data governance, in strengthening the communication, in having, for example, organization of conference. I was organizing a conference for this company where people can actually share and learn more about data regardless their technical level.
Well, that sounds as a life hack in a way. When you spoke about, define the problem and solve a problem, I was kind of mentally thinking about those actual initiatives in any, company. Like, hey, it will take a while to find a problem. It will take longer to, actually solve that problem, even to be able to start a conversation and get that kind of coalition to support you. But when you say like, oh, just use AI as an entry, that works much better perhaps. Which leads me to the next question. So you see today many companies taking that path on AI, right? Just like as you mentioned. So what is that setup which you see kind of works with AI, right? And what I call setup, I mean, it's a data side of the house, how do we establish this AI foundational knowledge with the data teams, or maybe, it's a separate teams within the organization who should take care about the data and about AI. Yeah, you mentioned like two things, data governance, AI governance. So it feels like to me a bit like two different things, or it's the same thing. But also on the business style. So if we take a one view on this, okay, data and AI capabilities, how they are managed, from best practice perspective, but also when you think about this AI notion from the business side. So how do you see that's going on? Like who takes that role of being responsible for AI initiatives in the business, and how business generally tries to then organize this as a shared responsibility or as, you tell me.
The magic word here, it depends. Again, so for example, I have seen with a lot of clients that they hire me, right, to do an assessment, an AI readiness assessment to understand where they are at. And you understand that basically the readiness for them is that they are using ChatGPT internally in the company. And that doesn't mean that you're AI ready. It's just like basically IT, because it's usually IT, enable Gemini or, I don't know, Copilot or something in your system. And they think like, okay, this is already secure. This is already have ethics. They already have all the components, right, from the governance side of things. And that's usually incorrect, right? Data governance as we know it, right? Again, we manage security, we manage quality, we manage accessibility, all the life cycle of the data. And this is what we know for years now, right? And also all the ownership, right? Like the change internally in the teams, right? If you're going to have domains, for example, or if you're going to have just one big data team, but who owns what, why they own it, and who's responsible. So this is basics. Data governance.
Very difficult for anyone to figure out. Yes, I agree.
Is the most basic stuff is still struggling a lot in the organizations. But now with AI, we need to bring a few more things on top of that. And this is more about performance, risks, ethics, right? How do you explain a model so you are not fined by the EU AI Act people, right? That is huge fines that they are having right now. What is the model behavior? Do you have bias? What is accountability? Can you audit that? It's many other things that you need on top of your regular data governance, because it's not the one or the other. It needs to be both together, right? Because without this one, you cannot do this one. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see, because people is no longer interested in implementing, for example, a better data platform or quality or so on. I mean, some companies, yeah, but some of them are just like, I want to do AI. And I also give a free mentorship in the mentoring club sometimes for startups, right? And one time I just got this call from this guy, and he was, I have this marketing product or something like that, and I want to use AI. And I was like, okay, because I want to be competitive enough with whatever is in the market. And I was, okay, so what kind of data stack do you have? How many people do you have in the team? So on. I have a software engineer, but I'm going to hire one data engineer. And I'm like, what kind of databases? What kind of cloud? I have MongoDB. And I was like, okay. And I was like, look, honestly, with this, you're not going to go far. You need a data scientist as well, to be explainable with the models and so on. You can do a few things, maybe a chatbot easily, but what you want to achieve, in this case, it's not attainable just with a data engineer, MongoDB, and one software engineer, right? This is not possible. So what I recommend, for example, for smaller, let's say, setups or smaller versions of it, right, for a small business or a startup, to start working with governance is strengthen your basic data governance, right? At least with the minimum. So data as a product principles. That's a very easy things to achieve, right? So we put there, okay, what is the product? Why is it for? What is the value of it? Who is going to use it and why is going to be used? And of course, some best practices, maybe from data governance, again, maybe ownership, maybe metadata management to be trackable. Again, the library example, the cheesy one. And with these, you can start, okay, maybe now I have a small team of data scientists. So now you can work on top with some other stuff like, accountability of the model, like the drifting problems, like data quality, because it's different kind of quality, right, that you need for a model. So again, this is not something that you can do separately, but you need to do it together. Now, to the second part of your question, who is in charge? It depends again. If you are in a big organization, for example, in the one that I worked a long time ago, they had a data protection officer who was working with a specific data product manager who was focused basically in all the data protection topics. So she can translate from the technical side to the, let's say, law regulation things and extract from this person that was a non-technical person what we need to implement and do, because in the new regulations and so on. But this is not the case all the time, right? Usually, for example, I had a client, a very big automotive company, and I asked them, okay, do you have a data protection officer? No, actually, we don't have that. And I was shocked because the size of that company is huge and they don't even have that. And even they have a data platform team, but everything is so fragmented that, it's not really, the communication is not flowing. No one knows who owns what. Everybody hired their own vendor to do some AI topics because they have separate budgets. And this is very, very complex. They don't have a committee, and they should have a committee of technical people who is able to say, okay, this is the guardrails, this is the rules if you want to do a project with AI. It doesn't have to be perfect, but at least to give some guidelines, on top for all the teams to follow, at least the minimum, because that was a wild, wild west. And for smaller companies, most of the people is like, why do I have to do that? I don't want that hat. I already have a lot of work to do. And this is going to require me to maybe write a policy, maybe have more meetings. I already have a lot of meetings per day. Why should I even do that? And this is one of the hardest parts to overcome, not only in AI governance, but the regular data governance. And that's why we're still talking about data governance in every single data masterclass, in every single, in my feed, there is a lot of still people that don't understand with memes, if things burning and, a mess everywhere, because we haven't understand the assignment.
I agree with you. At the same time, I have to be real. Recently, I was looking in all the engagements which we did with members in the Data Masterclass for the last 6 months. The number one problem was absence of that bridge, between, business talking to data and kind of having that bridge actually established, or, data talking to business, whatever pivot you take. And one of the other kind of top 3 things was an absolute non-existence of the product managers. So somebody may play a bit of that role. In one organization, it might be even a data lead who plays a little bit of that role. We've seen maybe analysts taking like a tiny percentage of this purely from, being able to talk more to the business and kind of understand what is their goal with the data and kind of trying to fulfill it, beyond just, an hour report or something like that. Which leads me to this point that all what you said is right. At the same time, it's very academic. I'm taking that kind of a mid-layer company with normal business, let's say, nothing techy, not digital native, nothing like that. And I have a very specific company in mind, this is where my wife is working. And when I see these type of companies across the 𝗏, I see this very similar setup. So there's a business, there is a little bit of that data function, often even outsourced, to some big companies. The only appearance of the data is usually through the analytics so far. So you still need some reports, you still need some company steering. So this analytical function is there. Another question, how appreciated it is or how advanced it is, but at least it's there. All right. And then there is this magic moment, which is initiated either, from externally, where somebody says this fantastic moment. He says, I want AI. So being ultra real on this, and explain it to me, please, like to the sixth grader. So when we have this type of situation, and we know that whole theoretical background of what needs to be there, and by the way, data protection might be also not existing, or somebody took this role somewhere in a business, but do nothing about that. How do we, what do we say? Because to say to this company like, oh no, you cannot do AI until you fulfill that type of lengthy criteria of hiring people, establishing procedures, and so on, that's for me not an answer. So there should be some kind of a middle ground where we meet, between that foundational things which are really good with governance, with AI governance, but also businesses needs to progress forward. Is this something we can either they just buy, or they do it in a very simple way, or like what's your take on this? Again, kind of trying to be in that, like, we meet customers where they are, and like, what can we still help them in that space?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I have this setup, right, in the previous company, and we were very lucky that we have a data product manager doing that. But also this big company, no DPO. I was like, oh my God, right? I mean, not even data protection officer. That's for me a little bit crazy. But yeah, I have seen that in Germany a lot. I had worked with American companies for a long time, and they have a different drive, a different way to do things. Also with a lot of clients around Europe. And of course, they at least have a data protection officer. But here in Germany, I have seen specifically that lack. And it's not that you cannot do AI, but then maybe you will need to not do something in-house that will require you to write a lot of policies, a lot of, governance topics in there, because you need to justify yourself if you have an audit. But maybe buy something out of the box, might be more expensive, might not do everything that you want. But if you need something to move, forward, like quickly, maybe you can try that, right? Or for example, at ThoughtWorks, we have accelerators to help clients, where we already have a kind of a setup, and we basically kind of do, let's say, a lift and shift, right? Okay, this is what you need. We put it for you together, and now you can start working. So it's very straightforward. Another thing is, like, we need to demystify the role of data product managers, because a lot of people is scared about this word. They think that a data product manager needs to be either a data scientist, an AI expert, a data engineer, and so on. And they need to be super good at SQL and Python. For some reason, I have heard that. Actually, I had that situation in a previous job as well. And no, it's basically something that I advocate, and I've been talking about a lot, is bring the best practices of agility, of requirement gathering, of talking with the business that we have already in software engineering for years. Just bring it to data. How many project managers are working in software engineering for years, and they are not they didn't study computer science, maybe they study business, they learn about the topics, but they don't understand the Java code, for example, or anything like that, but they understand the logic, the business logic. And this person, again, is the bridge, right, that you need to have. And I think one of the problems that hold back most of these organizations to maybe advance is this miscommunication. As you said, maybe they just need a few dashboards, but because they don't know what's the potential. And usually a product manager, program manager might be able to see an opportunity. And what we spoke before about the opportunity, the problem, and maybe say, okay, why don't we innovate a little bit? Why don't we try something different? I know that gather ownership from business is very difficult, very painful, but we need, again, to educate the product managers from software engineering in your company and bring this person to run projects in data. It's just run the project. It's the same logic, right? Actually, I have a story back in 2021 when I was working as a data product manager. We were doing data mesh. So we were doing a lot of domains. So we needed more project managers that become data product manager. I was part of the data platform team. And I actually was trying to educate them because they were really afraid for the reasons that I told you, right? About that. I'm not an expert. I don't know anything about data. How do I even manage a product? And I'm like, it's the same. It's the same. There will be Jira tickets, requirements from business. You give it to the developers. They do it, and so on. So I decided for one of the domains, no, actually for several domains, right, to do a workshop. So I explained them the flow. How does it work? So they are not afraid. The developers will be there. So everybody, the data engineers, so everybody is on the same page and we can kick off the domain-driven architecture, right, but in our company. So at that time I was working in Switzerland, so I had to travel. So I actually took the train on a Sunday. And when I was in the train, because it's 7.5 hours from where I live, I got a cancellation, like plum, 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 for every single product manager. They didn't want to go to my workshop. And that was really frustrating because I really spent time doing this, right? The data engineers and the data analysts, the data scientists were very sad because they really wanted to have this workshop because they were not able to connect with them in any way. And they just did that. And I went and I spoke actually with the head of product at that time. She was, sorry, they don't feel that they can bring any value to this team or do anything. And that's when I realized, wow, they really think they need to be experts in SQL. It's not really working. Most of the people have this, let's say, preconception, again, that they need to work more in data for some reason. That was pretty sad. And honestly, there was some escalations in there. At the end, they ended up doing it because they have to, because it came from the top, right? And they had no choice. But this is not what I wanted to really do, right? It was more about educate the people and to make them understand that there's nothing to be afraid of with this topic. But I have a success story as well there, but more with the business. I was working when we were doing a migration in the same company from an old Microsoft system on-prem to GCP. And basically we were doing lift and shift because, of course, when this request comes, it's like, it needs to happen in 6 months. Otherwise we won't have budget anymore. And then you have to run and do whatever you can in this amount of times. And I took that project. I saw a lot of red flags. At the end, we have to migrate some metrics. And these metrics basically were wrong everywhere. I mean, there were 5 types of leads, 3 types of churn. I don't know, you name it. Like revenue was also a mess. There was different ways to calculate everything. And then you understand that there is the need. Before, there was a one data team, right? And then people will come, I need the metric for revenue, and they will define it the way they think revenue works. So that's why you ended up with 5 types of revenue. So what kind of process you need to put to avoid this, right? So this is about process improvement here. So this is the moment that we start to talk to the monetization team because we need them to be part of this project to give us business test cases, to have some, let's say, intervals, to do anomaly detection, to understand if the information that we are having is correct because we were doing dynamic pricing and so on. And they were very negative about cooperating. We had to escalate the director of product and the head of product at that time. My boss did it because they didn't want to take the ownership for this. For example, who is going to define what is revenue? And this revenue is going to be revenue for everybody, right? Who is going to be define leads? And there was a big fight about it. So at the end, we kind of sort that out. I created some templates about it, about to have tracks so everybody can go there. It was Notion, so we have a library. There was no data catalog in our at that time.
No Excel?
No, we moved from Excel to Notion. In a table anyway, but in Notion. And the thing is, now that we moved from this level, right, from the definition of the metrics, we have the monetization team, and they were the ones who knows the business logic. So we needed some test cases, basically to understand the business logic, so we can make sure that this time the metrics were built correctly in the cloud, right, and that they will get the information that they need. And it was painful because they really didn't want to provide any information. They were like, "You should know," and I'm like, "No, we know we can produce a lot of test cases for the technical side of things, but we cannot understand completely the business logic." "Yeah, but this is your job. You're the data people, so you should do it." And there was these problems. They wouldn't connect to the meetings. They wouldn't help each other. I mean, in this moment, I was basically helping another data product manager to manage this team, right? And we had to escalate it. Because of that, they started to give the test cases. It was a big fight. They had a really bad attitude. And I'm telling you that this happens in months, right? I'm telling you the story now fast, but that was months of a struggle until we really deliver, the metrics and the dashboard looker, and everything matched what they basically wanted to have ever in their life. Literally, they wrote me to tell me that. Like, this is what we expect from the data team always. I'm so happy now, this and this and that. And they were connecting to the planning meetings, because we were doing, of course, sprints, and they were providing these, and they will see, I see a problem. I see that these numbers don't match. Maybe we need to test it differently. They were really engaged in the topic because for the first time, when they were presenting numbers to the manager, they match the reality. And they didn't understand that not to blame, but the person who needed to be collaborative with us to achieve that result, basically were they, right? And I remember I was organizing, this conference that I mentioned. So we had 4 different business units. There was the monetization manager from another business unit. And of course, there were different data teams, plus the data platform where I belonged. And he came to me and told me, "Hey, Amy, I want the same of this team. Can you make that happen?" Like this, really, really. And I was like, "Sure, why not? Let's talk about it." "Yeah, because they are not complaining. They are super pleased. They are happy. They said that now, they get all the information that they want. And right now, honestly, we have a lot of troubles with the quality of our data and nothing is really working. Can you talk to the data team?" And it's a data team that actually refused to be part of the data mesh and the domain, to see if they can do something similar. And I'm like, "Of course." And I'm like, "I will support, because I think this is what we need to do business better." And it was because the other guys came to him. So it's possible to drill into them, but it requires patience, show them the value in their work as well. What they are going to present is going to become better, so they're going to be praised, but then they will praise us.
This is a very interesting example, like on the both sides, which you bring it through. And, while I personally, I never objected the importance, or let's say the value of people building and doing that bridge role, right? The data product manager, as we call it these days, before, we had different names also in my life history for this. But it was always about this connecting kind of two things together, yeah? But I can tell you that there is also a very strong perception even in the data teams. They are still, in many companies, quite squeezed, in what we do. And we see that often it started with having some analysts first. So you need just to get some numbers to support the business. Okay, business has no time, has no knowledge, so they get some analysts. As analysts deliver more, the dependence of a need in data grows. And then people start thinking, okay, either you buy it somewhere, but you still probably need some data engineering workforce, right? So you get some data engineers, which again is a very particular skill, very well defined. You can see what we're dealing with, so all the pipelines, all the source ingestion whatsoever. So that kind of side of the house. And so now they have a bit more luxury. You have a data engineering platform maybe. You have the analysts keeping going and performing the work in front of the business. Some may opt now to the data scientists, because you want to get at advanced level of analytics. So they would hire, 1, 2, 3, maybe data scientists to kind of get to that data science notion. And now when we come to this and see, okay, so your data analysts are doing this, your data analysts are, simply satisfying the business requirements and continuous demand for data. Engineers work on a platform. Nobody speaks, to each other, so to say. And even more, they don't speak to business. So you kind of need that role. It's almost like super clean and clear at that moment. Like you don't have a role which connects us all together, a part of the data leader maybe. But then even the people in the data teams, they say, but hold up, what that data product manager will do? Can it do the SQL? You say, well, it's not like mandatory. I mean, if they're coming from an analytics background, that's fine. Okay, so it can't do SQL. Can it do data engineering? Like, well, that's not the purpose at all. Okay, so it's not a data engineer. Are we data scientists? Can we do Python and none? Like, no, I mean, that's not the purpose. Okay, so they cannot do SQL, cannot do data engineering, cannot do data sciences. Why do I have that person?
That's the point, right? That it's not for doing that, because otherwise you will hire another data engineer, another data scientist, another analyst. Is a person who manages these projects, basically. It's the one that is going to facilitate the meetings, the planning, the talking with the business, getting the requirements, no more pain between I'm too technical, so I don't understand what Anthony is saying. And the business person is like, I don't know what is a pipeline. Why should I know? And they don't really get it.
And this is, you're absolutely right. And that's what is this type of a foundational moment. And the team starts to even think about this, because in many absolute cases, they've been in this reactive delivery mode. They treat it as a part of the infrastructure. They treat it as something who provides the data as the analytics or data science layer to the business needs. And that's it. So you do your job. I don't want to see you anywhere above the line. Actually, maybe even not aware from a business perspective that there is a kind of above the line. I just want you to do this job, right? And that's why we don't talk to each other. We don't need anyone to be that translator and that bridge builder. And I'm wondering, I looked back recently on, my history of this, and we call that, business solution managers. We call that data solution managers. At some point of time, we call it data engagement managers, at Microsoft, where I came from. And then, kind of this data productization idea appeared, and we started to call the people as a data product managers. And I wonder, like, now with AI again, is there maybe? And
have you seen? There is already a AI product manager.
I'm thinking, like, isn't that a kind of a brilliant life hack, just like you said before, so AI opens the door for conversations. So maybe this AI product, kind of seeing this at the end as the AI product, may help. It's not the same as, still, supporting the analytics transformation in a company and so on. But maybe at least this is the way, to kind of get it through the AI, this title, or for some innovation, but there is something which needs to be done in that space. Otherwise, we all see that this role is kind of needed, but it's not that appearing and it's not forming automatically, right? And we are fighting, I can tell you from Data Masterclass perspective, we are often kind of fighting with the both sides of a company, with its own data team saying, like, you need a data product manager. And I say, like, wow, I'm not sure, like, give me a skill matrix which defines very clearly everything. And also with the business who kind of like, should it be from our side maybe? Or should it be, still somebody in a data team who should be kind of repurposed? So we see that it's very difficult, honestly, to get that role, which otherwise becomes extremely transformative role.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, a data product manager is an enabler, right? It's basically an enabler. And it doesn't matter if this person is technical or not, because I know a lot of data product managers that basically they come from technical and they said, okay, enough. I don't want to code anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And I really felt the need when I was a coder of someone who really translates stuff. So now I want to do that job. But I also see product managers that because I also mentor career people for career in general. Then that they come to me, how can I become a data product manager? And I'm like, it's rocket science, right? It's just you have a great skill set already. Maybe learn a little bit. You will go learning at work at the end about data migrations because you will have a project at some point. You will know about dashboards. You already know about KPIs. So it's not to be afraid. Now the KPIs are in a dashboard, right? You are the one managing the project. You're not the one asking ad hoc to a data team, hey, I need revenue. Hey, I need this, the LTV, the LVT, or these kind of things. It's no longer them doing ad hoc requests, but managing the dashboard from end to end. And this is the mentality that we need to change. We've been doing that in software engineering for thousands of years right now. It's just changing that mentality. We need to still work in Agile. We will have our Jira tickets. Let's get some requirements. Like, for example, something that I implemented as well was the 3 templates. It was metrics library, to define these metrics and harmonize them. Then the business product value proposition, the data product canvas, and a data contracts template. So before a new project will start, we will understand if that metric already exists in the library, or we need to start a conversation to harmonize that metric across all the teams. Then once it's done, we move to the business value proposition, right? And I did this as a data product manager, right? Because I found this was really relevant, where we define, okay, why do you need this dashboard? Do you have something similar in the past? Who will use it? What's the refresh rate? What are the pain points? Do you know other stakeholders that might be interested? And some other questions, even already like do you have some business test cases that we can use as an edge cases for the stuff? And then the data product canvas, the data product canvas, for the technical side of things to document the data product, right? At some point, we implemented this in Atlan, for example, all these templates there, because you can do this stuff as well to have documented all our end-to-end product. But one of the things that I found, for example, it was by using the business value proposition, I stopped a lot of ad hoc requests, because they needed to fill this form out. And they were like, no, I don't want this. Or I will be able to tell you, look, there is already this metric, so maybe you can use this, should be correct because it already exists in the library. Do you need more than this metric? Or can you just go to this dashboard and just basically take a look at it there? So we reduce a lot the new dashboards, the new CSV files, you name it, the APIs and so on, that we had super duplicated for years. And we reduce it only, again, one of the data product pillars, reusability. So we work very hard, and they were sometimes upset. Why do I need to fill this out? La, la, la. And some of them will drop the request. If you drop the request, it's because you didn't really need it.
Yeah, I like it actually. So it's basically, okay, one of the simple advisories were to start, like if you see there is this type of a need, or growing to that need of having a data product manager, because that's the most effective way of, managing data and managing the value of data in front of the business. Even stopping this reactive request flow, by introducing this as a kind of filtering facility at first, it's not as comprehensive as the full role will be, but it's kind of playing in that domain already. I was like, I just want to validate, and I would just be sure that we don't, create a duplicate, or we don't create something which we shouldn't create, in the first place. So that type of already moves it, towards that direction.
Yeah, and this is efficiency. You are not wasting the data team time, right? Because if it already exists, why work again another week to have the same stuff, right? Also saving money in storage, probably, querying and do a lot of things. So you save a lot of things at the same time that you can show at the end as a data platform team, as a domain team, metrics with value. I also created the metrics, like NPS for data products, to understand how long it's been used, if the people is happy, if he's not happy. If a product is not being used for a certain amount of months, then we will deprecate it, because that means it was not really, valuable. And or if we can merge some of them, in a more general dashboard, we will do that. And that really help a lot to improve the productivity, the efficiency of the team, and also to utilize better the data team. And this is something that most of the companies, I think in Germany, because we're still very old school, don't understand, right? That instead of being a blocker. This is an enabler. It's a way to enable your team to grow, to be faster, to be better, to work in AI, to be able to work more in the new topics. It's enablement 101, basically.
I love it. But okay, I really love it. We spoke about this evolution, in a way from data management, examples, then, why governance still matters, even we kind of, we look AI, we still think data governance, in a way. We should do it at least at a certain point. And so now when you mentioned this data product manager role and, how effective it is, and this is, again, it's, like really a pinnacle for me of organizing that delivery, how AI comes into this picture. We just mentioned a few minutes ago, like, is this AI product manager is a better name, but is this an opportunity to rebrand, or it's an opportunity to implement something very new, right? And I have a very specific reason also for this, to ask exactly that way. So what I've solved with data products, they were driving a focus on the data. They were driving some maybe commercial opportunities for customers quite a lot. But they also have been mostly reused afterwards as analytical products. So you prepare a data product layer, and then you put the analytics layer on top of that, and this is where the biggest biggest, most common benefits are coming from. And this value play for analytics is that, yes, you have more optimized business steering, you kind of see better like where the business goes and so on. With GenAI specifically, the play is a bit different, because where GenAI plays, if we're not talking about company ChatGPT or whatever, when we think about like this true AI opportunity, it's to reshape the core of business. Like you do business differently with AI than you've been doing this before the AI epoch came into the place. So how do you see this now potentially evolving, right? So we had that data layer, we use it for analytics, we get it in a better shape, we maybe use it also again for some commercial realization in the companies, which still kind of drive their normal business. And now there is this GenAI opportunity, and we may have even these GenAI product managers. So what would be that pivot towards GenAI?
Actually, I did a certification as a AI product manager just because I was really interested in getting to that. So I did this maybe because it's already been there for almost 2 years, actually, since I did it. So it was there. But I think it's a rebranding, kind of. However, with my job as a AI and data strategist, what I do and what I was doing even before in the previous company, it was use case discovery. And this is what these people will need to do. For example, I go to the client very often. I really have because I'm a principal, I just basically go do some discovery workshops, and then I move on, right? There is another team who implements the solutions and how we recommend it. But one of the things that you will have an AI product manager, you can replicate, because I have given these workshops to them, and they're, I would love this to happen every quarter. Because they didn't have the idea, they didn't know how to do it. And it's as simple as, okay, what's the pain of the business right now? And how we can implement AI. Not necessarily, for example, I was with a company at the beginning of this year, and they had very good ideas to improve internally the efficiency of their engineering team. They were more field engineers, right, in terms of writing maybe Jira tickets, requirements, because they have a lot of regulations, so they need to do a review, even translating from German to English and doing some other things. So I usually these kind of workshops, I don't do it that short, but for them, because they were a little bit reluctant and they didn't have time, we did a 4 hours one. Mm-hmm. And in this kind of workshop, what we do is, okay, I do a set of interviews first. So I understand the business pain. I understand the technical setup, at least on a glimpse, right? And then I understand who are the decision makers and what they are looking for. And once I have all this information, I ask in this workshop to participate at least one business person, the technical people from the data team who wants to develop that, or the data science team, you name it, right? Whatever they have. And one decision maker, at least. Mm-hmm. And with these, we go in different layers. So the first layer is, okay, now we have, writing requirements in Jira, something like that, right? And then we divide this main use case in smaller pieces. And we do the same with the several use cases that they have. So usually they have between 3 and 5, right? We divide it in smaller pieces. And then we go, for example, okay, what can be done with AI and have a quick win? What it's Gen AI maybe a rack on top because we need more. What's the need of precision, right? In this answer, can we really go by, I don't know, 70%, 80% precision, or is 100%? So it depends on that. We do more complex. Some of the ideas that they give, they are not even fixable with AI or not worth it. It's money that you can actually save because you can sometimes use software engineering and fix that problem or business process management. Wow. So we start classifying, right? Like what makes sense and what it doesn't. And then the idea is for them to vote for the most important, for them, from the business perspective, what is going to bring value. And because we have a decision maker, we have a technical person, and we have a business person, they need to agree. We go in the mural, right? We do the voting, and boom, right? We get the use case. We get basically a backlog of use case with some sub-use cases that we can start implementing little by little. By priority, by business value. We also do the analysis, the risk analysis, which one is important, which one we're going to put in the parking lot, what are we going to do next? And we create a small roadmap for them to do it. And this is something that, for me, an AI product manager should do, because this is business opportunity and how to do efficiency, right? I mean, right now it's called strategy, but for me, this is the real job of AI product manager.
I love it. So it's basically a great kind of a skill portability and, the job transition from being data product manager to being an AI product manager. And I see this great, actually, exactly as you said, it's a great match between those skills and capabilities which we see. And we actually do quite a lot of what you just mentioned from, this AI discovery on the Data Masterclass side as well. So, Amy, it was fantastic conversation with you. I think we learned a lot about the data productization and how to be efficient in that space, and how to use Excel everywhere, while we're thinking about AI. So any last words to our audience before we finish up?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure as usual. Always talking with you is super nice. For the people out there, please don't jump in the hype. I know everybody wants to have AI, but think about all the implications. Not only the AI governance that we spoke about, but also think about what brings value to you, what is more important. If it's for efficiency, check internally with your business stakeholders. Don't just apply something because you think it's going to be cool to have AI, or for your external customers as well. And if you are interacting with external companies or customers, please make sure you do good your AI governance, because probably you might have problems if you don't have very auditable, explainable, and very good, safe guardrails for your AI system. And for the product managers out there, don't be scared. You don't need to be a super technical person. You're already doing great by managing projects and products. So apply the same knowledge and you will be fine.
Wonderful. How people can find you if they want to get in touch?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. I also have my website, cosmodata-management.com. I have there the templates for sale as well for business value proposition, data product canvas, and so on, like 5 or something. And I'm writing a book right now on data products. So it's basically this topic for business people, for CTOs, for project managers, demystifying all this topic, not the technical side of things, but more the day-to-day things that we have to do as a non-tech people. And also a course is coming for already. It's going to be actually in November 18 and 19. It's going to be a live course. It's going to be 8 hours, 4 days, 1 day, 4 days the other day. And we will have a workshop so you understand how to deal basically with your business people, with your technical people, and how to bring your data products to the next level.
Wonderful. I love it. I want a copy of your book once it's better. And I think we can safely recommend this book for many people to read. I feel it, I know it's a hot topic. So everyone, once again, thank you very much. And thank you for having this amazing conversation with us. And we are waiting for your book.
Thank you. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.